like that. I'm going to throw on a new layer. And no, not that one. Maybe this one. Let's just have a look here. Just going to rotate the texture around to move the model over. We're working on another layer, so I'm just going to paint that in here. I'm going to bake that down. Before I do much more work with this, I'm just going to play around with layer styles to see what sort of effect we can get. I might throw an invert on it. Adjustment stack, invert. No. Let's remove that invert that we put on. Okay. Just going to do the same over here. Rotate that around. Move the model in a little bit. Maybe move it up. Bake it down. I'm going to rotate the texture around. And I'm going to scale it up a bit. Just going to put a paint in a little bit just through here. Bake that down. I'm going to turn masking off really quickly. I just want to have a better look at the model. Remove that. I may pull back on that a little bit. Not quite that much. Maybe something like that. Now I'm going to throw on a new layer. I am going to turn edge masking back on. We'll go back to our image manager. And what do you like? Move you down. No, not you. What about you? No, not you. This one might work. Scale it down. I'm just going to angle my model here. Zoom in a little bit, maybe not that much. Rotate my texture around. I'm working in a separate layer. bake that down. I might work on a couple of steps at the same time. So, on there and on there. Bake that down. Some parts I'm using more of the white, some parts I'm using more of the black in this black and white alpha texture that I'm painting on at the moment. Okay, we'll bake that down. Bake it down. And again, I'm still working with a very soft, reduced flow and reduced opacity in the texture. Just gives me a bit more control over what I'm painting down. If I want something if I want the texture to show a little darker, then I just go over the same area again. Okay, we'll bake that down. Paint that through there. Just going to go over that bit there and bake it down. Bake that down. Almost at the end. Again, I've turned masking back on so I don't accidentally paint on the top of the step here as I'm painting the sides. I just move that around. Okay, we'll bake that down. Bake that down. These bits here on the end. And bake that down. Okay, now let me play around with the mixing now. Let's move that out of the way for a sec. going to pull that back a bit. Okay. Let's just save the project here and take the texture into Max and have a look at it. So we'll right click on the channel, the color channel. We're going to go to export flattened, export everything flattened. Again, if you wanted to do some combining in Photoshop, you could export out each individual channel and combine them in Photoshop if you prefer to do it that way. Or if you wanted to alter one channel a little differently than the other, you can do it in Mari, but you can also do it in Photoshop. You can export out each individual layer. Now this is called lowerstairs.tga, and we'll call this one underscore painted.tga. You have to tell Mari what the file format is. It doesn't automatically guess for you. Or export all patches. Okay, let's jump back into Max and into our material editor. Let's swap out this texture. Lower stairs painted, that's the one we want. We haven't actually assigned it to the model, so we'll do that now. Alright. I'm just going to pull in a little bit. And rotate around a little. Now I wanted the steps darker, but not quite that dark, but I'm not going to alter that in Mari. I'm going to go into Photoshop to do that. So actually let me just pop Max down in case Photoshop complains with it being open in the background. Alright, now I'm going to open that texture we were just working on, which is going to be in our stairs folder. Lower stairs painted. I'm going to make a copy of that, and I'm going to throw levels on. Just pull that in a little. That's the original, that's the levels copy. Now I'm going to use the erase brush with quite a large brush size and a very soft brush edge. And I'm going to just remove bits and pieces here and there. If I remove the underlying layer, you can see how much of the texture is left on top. Not a lot, just a bit here and there. I'm going to save that as a targa. We're back in our stairs folder, lower stairs painted, and we'll call this one painted underscore R2 for revision 2. 24-bit is fine. Let's go back into Max and back into our material editor. Load up that texture we just saved out from Photoshop. That's that one there, R2. Let's lighten those stairs up a bit. I might do a bit of color correction on them as well. So I'm going to do a Control A, Control C. Actually, Control A, Control Shift C, which copies all layers, and then Control V. I'm going to play with the hue and saturation just a little bit. Just throwing a little bit more green in. Okay, and now I want to erase parts of it here that, due to color correction, have changed the color to be quite odd, which is this purple looking color, and maybe a little bit here. I don't want purple looking stones. On. Okay. It's going to save that back out as our R2 revision as a target. Where are we? Lowest as painted R2. Yes, I want to overwrite. Again, 24-bit is fine. Back into max. We just got a bit more green happening in there and less grey. But I still think it's a little dark. I'm just going to deselect that so I can get a better view. With the deselected, it's not too bad. So let me have a look front on here. It's not too bad. You may come back to that a little bit later on. Maybe once we've started texturing up these side pieces here. That'll give us a better idea of how it's going to blend in with the rest of the model. Yeah. Yeah, we'll wait till we've started working on these, which I think is what we will do next. So they look like they're in 3 separate pieces. So I'm going to select these. And I'm going to isolate the selection. Select the base. Go into the modify tonal. I'm going to collapse all. Yes. Now I'm going to attach those pieces together. Back over here. I'm going to collapse all. Yes. I'm going to attach these pieces together. Alright. Now turn attach off. I'm going to exit isolation mode. And we should be ready to start doing some texturing on those 2 pieces. I might just rename them. Call this one stair. What will I call that? Front stair, lower stair. We'll call it lower stair border, right? Quite a long name. And we'll call this one lower stair border left. Alright. We're just going to save our model. Again, remember, if you have any questions or anything you don't understand, feel free to pop into chat and ask me. I'll do my best to answer if I can. Or if you just want to say hello, feel free to pop in and say hi in the chat. Let's select that border on the right here. I'm just going to copy that name. We'll go into our material editor and again, standard material, a bitmap, and we'll just choose a texture to lay down as a base. Maybe you. Now I know with these front sections, I want to bring in a bit more of the color of the angel statues and the banisters here, so more of a brown, just to tie those together a little bit more. Also help tie in the tiles here at the base. So our color palette will be more of a brown when we go into Mari. Okay, let's just assign that material to the selection. Again, this is our more of a base color, so we're not too concerned with how it's looking at the moment. Let's throw a box map on there. Put it to the model. Just going to pull it up. That'll be fine for what we want. Going to copy that UV map. Select that object. We'll assign our material to that one as well. And I'm going to paste that UV map. Now, because these two objects are identical, that's the reason I can copy and paste between them like that. If they weren't exactly the same polygon count UV maps, then it wouldn't work. Anyway, we're going to go back to our right-hand border. We are going to put a unwrap UVW into map channel 2. We'll move the UVs across. We'll open the UV editor. Select our UVs and we will flatten mapping them. Alright, now we're going to we'll deselect our UVs. We'll go render to texture. Going to use existing channel 2. We will add a diffuse map. We'll set our texture size. And our map path. Back into our stairs folder. Lower stairs border right is fine. We don't want this diffuse at the end. Save it as a target file, 24-bit. Okay, let's render that. Alright. We can close our render to texture. We'll go into our utilities panel and open up our channel info. We're going to copy the UVs from channel 1 into channel 2. And we're going to clear channel 2. We're just going to find our updated render to texture and put that on now so that when we come back into Max it'll be ready to go. So stairs, that's called lower stair border right. Okay. Let's mess this one up, but we'll fix that shortly. We're going to export selected. We're in our stairs folder. We're going to export it as an OBJ and call it lower stair border right. Okay, now we'll jump into Mari. We're just going to save our project here. And we're going to open a new project. We'll call it lower stair border right. We'll load up our OBJ we just exported. I'm just going to change my temporary path here. And we're going to create a 2K texture. We're going to go into flat shading. We'll import into layer stack our rendered texture. What's that one? Lower stair border right. Looking a little funky. We'll fix that right up. Alright, let's import some textures to work with. And again, I've said it before, but anyone that's new and doesn't understand, each project in Mari has its own textures, so you can work with different textures in different projects. That's why I have to load them back up for every new project I create. Just makes it so if you're working in a team and you want to share the project, the model you're working on and painting up, everything is unique to that one object, that one project. Okay, let's bring in one more folder full of textures. And this one here. Open those. Okay, now let's start with a new layer. And the texture color that's on there isn't too bad, so let's start with that texture as well. I've got masking turned on, as you can see by that red shading. I'm going to zoom in on the model. Alright, just going to get myself lined up here. Something like that. Zoom in a little bit more. Alright. Going to rotate this texture around just a little. We'll zoom in. Zoom in a bit more. A bit more. Just a little bit more. Start there and see what we get. No, we want to be just going to go back into my brush editor and remove the opacity a bit and the flow. Just bring it up a bit more strong, a little stronger. Now I'm going to pull that down just a bit. Bake that down. Now I'm only really concentrating on this center piece. I'm not looking at the top or the bottom, just this middle bit here. Just at the moment anyway. We'll bake that down. I'm also just rotating the model as I work, so I'm working directly front on the model because it's a curved piece of geometry. I just have to keep turning the model around slightly as I go around. So I'm always looking directly at the model. Take that down. I'm going to put that one there. Bake that down. And we'll move you in. Just going to rotate that around slightly. Might move you up just a bit. And I'm going to bake that down. Okay, I thought that's what was happening. I'm going slightly over, so what I want to do is pull that in just a bit. And have a look at that. Again, I'm just slightly over, so again, a bit smaller. Alright, that size is good, so let's start with that. We're going to go here. In fact, I'm going to work probably just at an angle a little bit so I can see better what where the center of this geometry is, as opposed to the top piece and the bottom piece. I'm going to back that down. Move that over a little bit. And back that down. Just rotate that texture slightly. Move it along. Back that down. Let's start with you, I think. Okay, I'll break that down.